The sound was not one Moscow was accustomed to hearing. It was not the low, distant thunder of artillery from a Ukrainian battlefield hundreds of kilometers away, nor was it the celebratory roar of a military parade on Red Square. On a seemingly ordinary Sunday morning, the sound that echoed through the steel and glass canyons of the Moscow International Business Center, known as Moskva City, was the sharp, percussive crack of an explosion, followed by another. Plumes of black smoke began to coil into the sky above two of the capital's most iconic symbols of 21st century power and wealth. For a few breathtaking moments, the war that Russia had exported to Ukraine had been delivered, with shocking precision and audacity, to its very doorstep. This was not a random, indiscriminate attack. The targets were the IQ Quarter Tower and the adjacent MIBC Tower 1, two gleaming skyscrapers that housed the very organs of the Russian state's economic and political machinery. Government ministries like the Ministry of Economic Development, the Ministry of Digital Development and Communications, and the Ministry of Industry and Trade, powerful financial institutions like Rosbank, and a web of state-owned corporations and elite private enterprises. These were not just buildings, they were nerve centers. The strike on August 2023, was a psychological masterstroke and a tactical gambit of monumental proportions. But the direct hits were only the beginning of the story. The true drama unfolded in the hours, days, and weeks that followed, a cascade of consequences that revealed far more about the state of the Russian Federation and the evolving nature of the war than the attack itself. This is the story of that day. This is what happened after the drone struck. Part 1. The attack, a symphony of precision and audacity. The setting, Moskva City, the fortress of Russian capitalism. To understand the magnitude of the strike, one must first understand the target. Moskva City is not just another business district. Conceived in the 1990s as Russia's answer to La Défense in Paris or Canary Wharf in London, it was a physical manifestation of post-Soviet Russia's ambitions to integrate with and dominate the global economic order. Its construction, spanning decades and costing tens of billions of dollars, was a project of national pride. The skyscrapers, with their avant-garde designs by international starchitects, were meant to signal that Moscow was open for business, a hub of finance, technology, and luxury. The towers struck were central to this image. The IQ Quarter Tower, a 283-meter, 928 feet, monolith, and its neighbor were more than just office spaces. They were sanctuaries for the elite. Their lobbies were marble-clad, their security was assumed to be impenetrable, and their tenants were the who's who of Russian power. Striking them was akin to striking the Pentagon or Wall Street, not in terms of military command but in terms of economic and bureaucratic psyche. It was a direct attack on the perception of safety that the Kremlin had meticulously cultivated for the capital and, by extension, for the Russian ruling class. The execution, penetrating the impenetrable. Russian air defense over Moscow was touted as the most layered and sophisticated in the world, a multi-tiered system comprising S-400 Triumph batteries, Pantsir I short to medium-range air defense systems, and a web of electronic warfare assets. For over a year, this shield had successfully intercepted the vast majority of Ukrainian drones aimed at the capital, often causing minimal damage in the outskirts. The August strike was different. Ukrainian military intelligence, GUR, in coordination with special forces, executed an operation of breathtaking complexity. It is widely believed the drones used were a new long-range variant of the Ukrainian-made UJ-22 airborne or a modified commercial design, but their origin was less important than their execution. The attack employed a multi-vector approach. Swarm tactics. Rather than sending one or two drones, a larger swarm was deployed. This was designed to overwhelm Russian air defense operators, saturating their radar pictures and forcing them to make split-second decisions. Low-altitude terrain following. The drones did not fly at high altitude where they are easily detected. Instead, they navigated the river valleys and low terrain of the Moscow region, flying literally under the radar coverage for significant portions of their journey. Electronic warfare countermeasures. The drones were likely equipped with basic but effective electronic countermeasures (ECM) to jam or spoof Russian guidance systems. This suggests a significant evolution in Ukrainian drone technology, moving from simple off-the-shelf models to militarized platforms with integrated EW suites. The Russian state's initial response was a study in controlled chaos. State news agencies like TASS and RIA Novosti were silent for a critical 45 minutes. On social media, particularly Telegram, the story broke instantly. Muscovites posted videos of the smoke, the sound of the explosions, and the frantic scenes outside the towers. The narrative was being written by citizens, not the state. When the government did speak, its first instinct was denial. A spokesperson for the Moscow mayor's office initially reported an emergency situation related to building maintenance, a transparently absurd claim given the visual evidence. This was quickly followed by the standard line: Ukraine had launched a terrorist attack on peaceful civilians. The information war, controlling the narrative. Within 2 hours, the full force of the Russian propaganda machine swung into action. Key themes were immediately established and broadcast across all state-controlled media outlets. The terrorist frame. The attack was relentlessly framed not as an act of war but as terrorism. This language is deliberate. War implies two legitimate combatants. Terrorism frames Ukraine as an illegitimate, barbaric actor and allows Russia to position itself as a victim. News segments featured experts decrying Ukrainian Nazism and its willingness to target civilians. Minimization of damage. Official reports downplayed the structural damage and focused on the genuinely low casualty count. The message was, "They tried to hurt us but they failed. Our defenses are strong." They did not explain how a failed attack resulted in 2 smoking skyscrapers in the heart of the capital. The nuclear specter. Several prominent propagandists on shows like 60 Minutes on Russia, one began explicitly discussing the need for a more devastating response. Some, like the notoriously hawkish Vladimir Solovyov, openly questioned why Russia was not using its full arsenal, including tactical nuclear weapons, to end the regime in Kiev once and for all. This was a deliberate escalation of rhetoric, designed to terrify a domestic audience and signal resolve to the West. The security crackdown, theater and reality. Simultaneously, a massive security theater operation was launched across Moscow. Police and National Guard, Rosgvardia, presence was quadrupled. Checkpoints sprang up on all major roads into the city. Air defense systems, previously positioned on the outskirts, were now visibly deployed within the city center, on rooftops, in parks, and even near the Kremlin walls. This served 2 purposes. First, it was a genuine, if belated, attempt to bolster the capital's air defenses. Second, and more importantly, it was a psychological operation aimed at the Russian people. The visible military presence was meant to project strength, control, and reassurance. Look, it said, the state is in command. We are protecting you. Yet, to many it had the opposite effect. The sight of anti-aircraft guns in Gorky Park was not reassuring. It was a stark, terrifying admission that the city was now on the front line.